I'd like to call the Finance Committee meeting to order on Thursday, February 5th. Can you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Up there.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please note that this meeting is in person and is being recorded. I apologize in advance, I've had a cold, so I won't be giving any long monologues tonight because I may lose my voice. Thank you, Terry. Anyway.
Also, we also may have one member on Zoom, so if he does happen to show up, then the meeting will have to have
Correct.
a roll call vote.
Right, we will note
on
if
any
he
votes.
comes in on Zoom, because then we do have to do a roll call. And then we would have to do, any voting we do would have to also be done by roll call.
So to start off tonight's meeting, we are now in the thick of it, I guess, if you would call it. We're in the middle of our FY27 budget season. We'll be meeting with the bigger departments first, starting tonight with police, DPW, and then schools. We're also, in conjunction with that, meeting now with CIPC. The calendar, which I'll put up again at the end, just to remind everybody, we're actually, as again, 1 month early from last year, which is good. But we're also meeting with Budget Advisory Group, so there's a lot going on right now with all these with the different committees in town. But tonight, we're here with Police Chief Brian Levesque to go over his FY27 budget request.
Chief,
Thanks,
please
Chief.
join us.
All right. Good? Okay. All right, good evening, everyone.
Good
Good
evening.
evening.
All right, so here's a summary of the operating budget showing an overall increase of 1.6%. I do want to highlight that so that sounds good. However, the Brotherhood and the DTA have not yet negotiated FY27 contracts. So that figure does not include any contractual raises that they would be entitled to upon the successful negotiation of that contract. And I'll just kind of go over some of the highlights. The biggest variance, you'll notice, is with the dispatchers, 12% increase. In addition to, the normal things that cause increases, like the cost of living, step increases, any kind of college incentives due to degrees. This particular increase, 10% of it, was due to the addition of a dispatcher. We made that decision about mid-year. We've been really struggling in dispatch over the last few years due to a number of reasons, mostly due to injuries, illnesses, and unfilled vacancies. And these issues go on for months. Take an unfilled vacancy as an example. If it takes us, it can take us 2, 3, 4 months to fill the vacancy. Once it's filled, it's another 3, 4, 5 months to train the person. And we do have, it's a very difficult position to fill. We have people who are interested in doing it, but not everyone's cut out for it. And sometimes we don't find that out until they've been, halfway through the process and so forth. The other advantage to this position is we positioned it so it starts at noon and it goes until 8 o'clock. So if we're fully staffed, we're able to then staff that noon to 8 position, which is not only our busiest time for calls for service, but in addition, it allows the dispatcher to cover 2 different meal break periods. So the dispatchers obviously get break time. They would leave, go on their break. We're still able to have 2 dispatchers working during that meal break time, which is also our busiest time. So there's a lot of advantages. I think that was a long time in coming and adding a position like that. It came recommended from the dispatch supervisor, and the town supported it for all the reasons I just gave. We've had people on military leave for, I think it was 8 months at a time. There's just been a lot of issues, and I'll be honest, the dispatchers, they stepped up, they did a great job, but they were getting burned out, and we were getting to the point where we were going to probably start losing some dispatchers. They just couldn't handle it anymore, which would put us in a really bad position. Unlike police officers, we have flexibility. We can move them around. We have specialized positions. Dispatch was essentially staffed perfectly, And that's fine as long as there's no problems, but once there's an issue, I think it was 3 years in a row, we had significant issues in dispatch. And that's a very, very important part. So I think those are the highlights. I know there was, during the budget I presented, we don't anticipate any requests for additional funding for the remainder of FY '26. As a matter of fact, we anticipate significant turnbacks. We'll talk about it more as we go along, but police officer staffing continues to be difficult to fill those positions, which is the main reason for the turnbacks at the end. We have basically vacancies in those positions, and I'll go more into detail in some future slides. Also, low gas prices, coupled with the fact that we have a majority hybrid/electric fleet of patrol cars. So I'm anticipating maybe as much as $20,000 in fuel being able to turn back as long as the prices stay low. So any questions on this slide?
Just one question. So you said that the 1.6% doesn't include collective bargaining. Does it include any assumption for a raise?
We handle that internally. You won't see that in any department requests. We have built into projections what we think it's going to be.
So the only thing that'll be in.
Then that's what I'm asking. So it does include a,
Does not,
No,
not mine.
the department level requests do not. So what you see from the departments do not. Where we build in the back end and look at the budget have included those things.
So it will
We
come
can't put
under
it in.
administrative or
Yeah, we
something.
can't put it in department requests because that gives up the bargaining position of the town. You can see what we're building in. So we internally, we have an idea of what the market is and what we can afford. We've built that into our projections. So as we go forward, we know we can afford it or not. But you won't see that in any department request. The only thing that they request is what's contractually been approved. So none of our collective bargaining agreements have been approved for the fiscal '27, but if there's steps would be in there. So those aren't a contractual cost of living adjustment, but the steps are built in.
Or any non-union, like
Yeah.
contractual agreements.
So, excuse me, will there be some type of more accuracy by the time we get to spring meeting as far as the numbers go?
I hope so.
Okay,
Yeah. It all depends on how bargaining goes. We're going to begin bargaining very soon.
okay.
John?
So Chief, I don't know if I missed it, but the 12.1% in dispatch, that was for added new positions or an increase in salary for those positions? What was the 12% increase?
Sure, it's a combination. So about 10% of it was the new position, and the remaining.
Just one new position?
One new position. The 2% was just regular step increases for the existing employees.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? No?
Okay. Next is a focus on expenses. Expenses make up about 8% of our total operating budget. I've submitted a level-funded expense budget for this year. I do anticipate, and I went into more detail in the report I submitted, software materials line item increasing in the future. So I'm anticipating that, kind of announcing that now. We've done the best we can to keep those costs down. Some of the software we're evaluating, and we're gonna decide what works for us and what we're gonna keep. But basically, the software costs have risen quite a bit, and we've also added software. And I have additional information as we move through, but that's become a big part of what we do is software-related expenses. And it's not uncommon to see them raise their prices by as much as 5 or 6% in a year. And so it's been difficult. We've managed it. We've kept it pretty much under control, but that is as far as line items and how fast they're growing, that's the one that's been most difficult to kind of contain.
Question, Chief. Do you have any software that's expiring, license or otherwise, that may need an update that may not be included in your figures?
No, so the software expense that I'm referring to essentially is an annual expense. So we have to pay annually for the service and maintenance agreements, which includes all the updating and the latest versions and stuff like that. So that line item covers the expenses that we're talking about related to software. So it's not so much purchasing new software, it's maintaining and updating the existing software that we have.
Could I ask a question with respect to other capital outlay? Give us an example of what other capital outlay might be.
Sure, so I don't make up the names, and I would agree, that, it's kind of a strange name. But that was added to our budget a couple years ago, and what it basically covers is the cost of our body-worn cameras.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just to note too, I did go back about 9 years to FY '18, and I kind of looked at how expenses have grown over time. And the compound annual growth rate for our expenses has been just over 2%. So it's been, I think, very reasonable considering the inflation that we all experience. However, looking at software alone, that's over 12.5% that's been growing, you know, pretty much year over year during that same time period. All right, just to kind of highlight what we do with grants, we don't have anyone specifically assigned to grants. I've got a couple of different people in the department who try to keep their eyes open for these grants and apply for them. So I've listed the ones we've been awarded, the biggest one being the 911 grant. That's an annual grant. Because of some of the things our dispatchers are now doing, mostly to do with cell phones, we take the cell phone calls direct. This goes back a few years now, where when you call 911 from your cell phone, it basically bases it on the location you're at and sends it to the proper jurisdiction. Prior to that, they all went to the state police. And departments who signed on to that willingness to take those calls got additional grant funding. If you didn't want to, they would still go to the state police. So we did that. In addition to that, we utilize a mobile crisis unit, and our dispatchers call them out for people in need that need that service, and they actually respond out to the scene with our officers, do kind of a joint response. And 911 has a lot of additional monies based on the fact that the dispatch now has to make that call, coordinate with Crisis Center, and get them out to the scene. So we're kind of maximizing the grant funding from 911 that we can obtain. The Bulletproof Vest grant is also, it's a state and federal grant, and combined, it covers the total cost of replacement vests for our officers. And there's always a certain amount expiring year to year, and we've been doing a good job of obtaining that grant. Municipal road safety is for officers to go out and based on, you know, basically targeting from the state, whether it be texting when driving, they do different pedestrian crossings, stuff like that. They have different campaigns they run. Click it or ticket, you'll see them advertised usually, and that funding it pays for the officers to go out and do that kind of enforcement. And the last one listed that we actually have been awarded is $15,000 towards purchase of electric vehicles, and that's a state grant. It's $7,500 per vehicle, and we ordered 2 vehicles. So that's a significant savings on the cost of those vehicles. And the cost of the vehicle themselves has come down dramatically in the last year. And it's actually right now priced, the full price of it, the electric vehicle, is the same price as the gas vehicle. So with that grant, we're actually saving $700 in the vehicle purchase. And that doesn't account for the lower maintenance costs. They don't need oil changes, stuff like that. And the savings with the fuel difference. Right now, the cost of gas is pretty low, quite honestly, so I don't anticipate a huge savings with fueling, but at some point, I think the electric price has been more stable than the gas prices have, and that could change at any time. There's a lot going on worldwide, as we're all aware, so those are the grants we've been awarded. In December, we submitted a grant for the body-worn cameras. It's significant. We just checked again today. They're still reviewing it. We're anticipating hearing back in the next couple of weeks on that. If we did get that, that would be significant, and it would certainly help out with that line item about other equipment or whatever it was called.
The capital outlay.
Capital outlay. Yeah. And the final one is a COPS accreditation grant. We did apply for that. It assists with accreditation-related expenses, and we did not get it. We asked them why we didn't get it. We haven't heard back, so.
Brian, who gets the RFPs? Do you get them? Or do they come from administration?
A lot of times, the cost of the purchases we make, they don't require RFPs. We buy a lot of things off the state bid.
Okay.
So,
But for the grants, I'm thinking that, how do you find out about these grants, I guess, is a better question.
websites, federal websites, state websites, stuff like that. We've worked with the town's energy manager, assisted with the EV grant. So, yeah, number of sources, however it comes. Sometimes vendors bring them to our attention because, you know, they want you to make purchases, so they'll notify you of grants that could help with the purchase.
Chief, as far as the body-worn camera storage goes, what's the length of time that you have to retain the video? Because it's relatively new program, so I assume as time goes on, you're just gonna build up more and more storage until it kind of like revolves at a certain point that you don't need to keep them anymore?
Yep, yep. All right, so there's no state standard
Okay.
on storage. What we did is we kind of mimicked what the state police were doing at the time. And depending on the type of call the officer went on, dictates how long we store it for.
Okay.
The shortest time is 1 year. Some could be over 10 years,
Okay.
depending on what's going on with the case,
Okay.
what's happening in court. As part of the program we have with our cameras, the way the video gets, it's called tagged, it's auto-tagged, basically, based on the dispatch call type.
Sure.
So otherwise, it would be a lot of work for the officers, because we make a lot of video, I think you kind of alluded to that. And we've got terabytes of video stored. And that's, luckily for us, that's part of the cost of our body-worn camera program. It includes storage, and it's a ton of storage. And I'll talk a little bit later about, but we just recently upgraded. We haven't switched over yet, but we've upgraded our internet connection. We had basically Comcast, Xfinity connection, regular cable connection. The town, we kind of followed their lead. We upgraded to a dedicated fiber connection because this video gets uploaded onto the servers and is stored online, essentially, in a secure server. But we're just transferring a tremendous amount of data. And the cameras do it automatically as the officers come into the station over the wireless. The video starts going up. When the cars pull in, we have car video from 18 cars. That gets uploaded as well when the cars pull in. And tagged, uploaded, and then saved for the required length of time.
Sure, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good program. It's been working out great. I think the officers appreciate having that protection of having the cameras.
Absolutely.
And the transparency. We also get a lot of requests, public requests for video. And so the only part that's a little bit difficult for us is we have to, before we can release a video, we have to go through the video, review it, and redact it. And it's time consuming. We have some automation with it, and it's getting better over time. But it is time consuming to, redact video. Sometimes we can charge for it, a lot of times we can't. The next thing, I'll go into some detail on some of the capital improvement requests for this year. So a couple of the reoccurring ones would be the 4 cruisers. 4 police cruisers is a regular request. The price increase I had built in and we're going to stick with is 3% higher than last year for the cost of the cruisers. The cost does go up. It's gone up relatively significantly. However, we can offset some of that with the electric cars we're talking about. So I was able to maintain what I had predicted last year as far as the price goes. Every other year, we purchased 2 administrative vehicles, so that would be this year. This would be one of the other years where we have that purchase set up for 2 of those cars. Next item would be the tasers. We have, when we signed up with Axon for the tasers, this is the newest version, the Taser 10 that they have. It's basically a 5-year lease-to-own program, so we're in year 2 of that, and that's what that funding request is for, is to pay the second payment of 5 after the 5 years you own the tasers. The cost does include all the cartridges. We have to train with it each year and expend cartridges in training, as well as, live use, stuff like that with them. So it includes basically any costs associated. They're fully warranted during that 5-year period, so there's no other costs other than that payment that we need to make each year. And the final request would be the newest one. That would be for a staffing study. I don't believe we've ever had a staffing study, but staffing does, the police officer salaries line item does make up 70% of our budget. Not only does it make up the largest portion of our budget, but essentially it has a direct effect on our response time, officer safety, quality of services that we can provide to the town. So this is essentially a professional study to determine the optimal police staffing for Dartmouth. And they come in and they look at the size of the town, our calls for service, what kind of calls are they. They take into consideration all those factors, and then they get back to us with what they think the staffing should be. I don't believe in our over 100-year history that's ever been done. We have a number that we present as far as our staffing. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, there's some guidelines available, but they're very, very general. There's no way without a study like this you can come up with the exact right number of officers that we should have here in Dartmouth. Yes.
So why did you decide now to have a study?
Well, I mean, been doing this now almost 9 years, right? And I've actually wanted to do this for a while. I was a little hesitant because of the cost. It's expensive. I looked around, that's an estimate. We wouldn't know until we would have an RFP on a purchase like this. So I don't know what the exact cost is gonna be, but looking around at other studies that have been done, that's the cost. So it is a big expense. The number we have, which is 74 officers right now, seems to be working for us. However, there's more scrutiny now on town budgets. And I always want to come from a defensible position. And when I'm asking for funding, which is 70% of my budget, I want to be able to say with confidence that I'm asking for the right number of officers. And
I
the
guess
only
I'm-
way I can get confidence is with a study like that.
I guess I'm curious if you were familiar with another community that did it.
No, no. I mean, other communities, I'm familiar with communities that have done it. Nothing specific though, like around here or whatnot.
Right,
that
that's all. I
triggered.
just
There's
figured you
nothing-
may
yeah.
have been
No,
familiar because of someone else's study.
No.
Yes, Deirdre?
Thank you. In regards to that study, I think I saw it as a $60,000 study.
Yes.
And the data exchanges would be a massive part of that analysis, as would the town's infrastructure. Do I understand, we talked about this, I was at the department head meetings, and we were chatting about your difficulty in hiring, and then the fact that we're turning back hundreds of thousands of dollars each and every year because we can't hire the officers that we desire to hire. Your civil service comes out July 1st. You've got a budget that we couldn't hire the officers ending June 30th, turning back a couple $100,000. That same budget is in July 1st. I don't know what suggestion I can make or recommendation I could make, but I would do that study right now and identify the appropriate level, and then raise and appropriate the appropriate level, whether that's 78, 82, 74, 60, whatever it is, because I just think the turning back of hundreds of thousands of dollars raised and appropriated for a particular purpose that we know that we're challenged about, and then have the study done might be a nice recommendation to the town as a whole to move the department forward. So that was a kind of recommendation thing.
Question, Chief. How long has this been trending where we've been actually turning back monies back into the town? Is this, I can't remember. I know you've done it in the past, but I just refreshed my memory. And also, how much has your overtime expense gone over from, say, last year to this year because of the shortage of staff?
Yeah, so, good points. As far as the turnbacks go, they've been almost every year for quite a while. But the reason, there's two different reasons. So there's the reason we have now, but I'll go back to the original reason is first. So when an officer were to leave, were to retire, we were at full staffing basically. So we couldn't fill that position until the officer actually retired. And there was a lag in between when one person retired and we hired somebody to replace that person. And it might be multiple officers in any given year that retires. So that would cause a bit of a turnback, nowhere near the extent we're talking about now, but it would cause some limited turnback in just that gap in retiring and hiring people. What we're dealing with now is, I want to say it was maybe 2 years ago, we had 10 officers retire in 1 year. And a lot of them were unanticipated. They weren't like the officer who's done their 32 years and retired. These were younger officers, some with 10 and less years on, who just decided to change careers. You know, it's a tough climate out there for policing, quite honestly, and that's why we're seeing this issue. I mean, when I got hired, there was a line, okay? It was very, very difficult. I waited years to get hired. It's not like that anymore. It's a very competitive environment, and there's not the appetite to want to, you know, be in the field of policing. You know, we all see what's going on out there, and it's a difficult time in policing. So the reason what we're doing now is we haven't recovered from losing 10 officers in 1 year. We've put some back in, but not at the rate we're losing them. And that's what's causing the additional turnbacks each year, is just the being understaffed with police officers. So it does have an effect on overtime. We have been going over on the overtime. I'm anticipating certainly going over this year on overtime. It could be $50,000 to $80,000, you know. It's hard to predict overtime because there's a lot of things that are out of our control with overtime. How often officers go to court, how many, the calls they have, sometimes they have to work late, stuff like that. The amount of time off they take, that creates shifts to backfill. So, but yeah, we are gonna go over this year on overtime. But, as a net, we will be turning back because of the savings and not having officers, those vacancies.
So other communities must be going through the same thing as Dartmouth, right? You said?
Yes. Yep.
I think that, just to follow up, the critical shortage area in policing and in public safety, and in DPW, we talked when we were working with, you'll hear about DPW staffing and licensing and CDLs and professional level employees with the amount of licensures. I mean, Gary and Cody are their own critical shortage area. So I think that we'll find the struggles as a town as a whole as we look to staff our professional departments.
Brian, who would do such a study?
There's various companies, there's a lot of companies
Are
out
they
there.
police
that would-
officers? Are they,
I don't know what their background is. I'm sure a lot of them came from policing, but they focus on like government-type studies, so not just police departments.
Okay.
But yeah, I was looking around, I came across probably 6 to 8 companies that would do that.
okay.
Yep.
In terms of your capital, so with this swapping to the EV type vehicles, do you have capacity at the station for charging all those once they all switch to EV, or is that gonna be something that comes down the line?
So we have a limited capacity right now. We have one patrol vehicle currently that we purchased to kind of test it and see how we made out with it. And we installed a charger to go with that. Now it's a level 2 charger. It's not one of the fast chargers. It does a decent job of keeping the car charged up. With that being said, with the purchase of ordering, we've ordered 2 additional cars. And we have 1 charger installed. We're gonna have 1 additional charger installed. So we'll have 3 chargers for 3 cars. But are they fast enough to keep up with using the cars the way we use them? I don't think so. So what we've also done is we've opened an account at the Tesla Supercharger, and we're able to charge our cars there. So we're fortunate here in town to have that supercharging capability, right, especially right near the police station. And the officer could go there for about 10 minutes and charge the car back up versus it could probably take about 6 hours on our charger. So if the car has
Quanticana
time.
Road on Route 6. Have him sit there while he's charging and watch that traffic.
So I have
We did try a
questions.
couple of years ago, there was money available to put some of those fast chargers
Yeah,
at our
that's my
station. We did apply for it, we were denied the first time, they said there was gonna be a second round, we haven't heard back, but they're about $250,000 per charger. And our proposal was for about $500,000 to put 2 charging stations that could be utilized by the public when we weren't using them, kind of a thing. And that was a great idea, but we didn't get funded for it, and I'm not asking for funding for that because it's such a huge expense. And, there's many, we're fortunate that we have like a gas fueling station at our police station, but many departments, including the state police, they use commercially available gas stations. So you could pull up to the pump and have a state trooper beside you fueling up their cruiser. And so you don't have to pay for all that infrastructure, maintenance, upkeep, all the licensing that goes along with it. So like I said, we're just fortunate that we have those not only in town, but actually right down the road from the police department.
Yeah,
So you don't
very
foresee the
close.
need to, at some point in the future, as you switch to EVs, upgrading the infrastructure at the police department to charge them in-house versus, it works for you to be able to?
It works right now, and what I want to do is I want to get these 3 cars, put them into service, and just really see over a longer term. I'm really not looking to commit to any more of them at this time. I want to see how these go on a longer term basis, how reliable they are, officer feedback, stuff like that, before I commit any further. So we're going to be good for a while with these cars, and then we'll have to talk about potentially adding, but it is a huge cost to add. And not only add it, but you've got to maintain it and all that stuff that comes along with it. But it would be cheaper as far as the actual fueling up of the car, because we're paying a premium to fuel it up. Luckily, we have officers who work around the clock, and if you're familiar with the superchargers at all, midnight to 8 a.m., there's a heavy discount on the rate. So that is the shift that would be asked to charge the cars to get that boost, so we could maintain them with the other charges.
Yeah.
Janine, just curious on your cars, are they 60% gas, 20% hybrid, and 20% fully electric? What's your split?
Yeah, so the patrol fleet is almost exclusively hybrid. What we do is, we do have some gas cars. There was a time, if you recall, around COVID, it was very difficult to get cars at all. So we had to kind of just take what they had, and at the time, they had more gas cars. So when we had to incorporate additional gas cars into the fleet, we selectively placed them. And the biggest savings we see with the hybrid cars, quite honestly, is in the patrol division, because the savings come from idle time. When you're actually driving them around, it's not a huge savings, to be honest with you. But the patrol division, we had done a study even years and years ago, their cars idle between 60 and 70% of the time. And that's to keep, the climate control system working, keep all the computer equipment up and running, if they're at the scene, to keep the emergency lighting on. So the cars kind of have to run. But when they run on battery, they're able to turn off for quite a while, run off the battery exclusively. The engine starts back up, charges the battery as needed. And there's a significant savings in fuel with the hybrid vehicles. So the patrol fleet is very close to 100% hybrid vehicles. And now they have an electric vehicle and soon 2 more.
And the total electric vehicles, what kind of experience are you getting in this cold weather? Are they reliable? Are they
Yeah.
a problem during these periods?
Yeah, so in the last couple of weeks, we all know it's been extremely cold.
Yeah.
And we were interested to see, as kind of part of our testing,
Yeah.
how we made out, and the feedback was good on them. The good part too is they can preheat, they can heat up before you even get in them very easily. So the officers they kind of like that fact of them. And they heat up like right away, versus a gas car in this kind of cold, as you probably all know, right? In the morning, you're trying to get the car heated up. It could take 15, 20 minutes to get these things heat up within like a minute or so. Like, the heat is almost instantaneous. So, in the battery life, there's been no complaints on that.
Even in this cold weather?
Even in the cold
I've got no
weather.
experience with it, but I'd be,
Yeah.
because it's sucking up a lot more energy during this
Oh, yeah.
cold weather, and.
Yeah,
how's that
yeah, the
battery
range
going?
does decrease, but it hasn't been to the level where it's
not where
impacting.
it becomes a problem.
Exactly, yep, hasn't been a problem. So,
That's great.
yep, yeah, I guess we were fortunate to get this cold weather so we can do our testing.
Yeah, we
right?
can,
There you go.
love it.
All right, so some goals. Talked about this. The biggest one is recruitment and retention of officers. And, there's a lot of that stuff that I think we have control as a town. And the biggest thing being really the compensation package. We're all competing for a very small pool of qualified officers these days, and we're competing against other cities and towns. So that compensation package is really important, and it's nice to see that the town is in the process of finalizing a study. It'll give us some idea of, where we are compared to other comparable towns. In addition, working conditions, the kind of equipment we provide to officers, training, and the opportunity for advancement and specialization. Those are some of the things that attract police officers. We've got a beautiful new station. I think we have very, very good equipment. We get good support from the town to purchase these new vehicles, constantly turning over our fleet, things like that. I think all those things are factors. We're, a decent-sized agency. We're not a city, but we're a big town. And the benefit to applicants essentially is we can offer specialization, chance for advancement, more so than a smaller town could. So I think Dartmouth would be a very desirable place for officers to come. We're working now to advertise opening positions, look for laterals outside of civil service. They've allowed us some flexibility because they also understand the difficult time that departments are having in hiring. So we're able to hire 50% of officers outside of civil service. We've signed on to that program. Now it's just a matter of attracting those candidates and hiring them. The next thing is operational efficiency. So we're down officers now. We're hoping it's going to get better, but we have to have another plan. And even if it were to get better, with more efficient operations, it would allow us flexibility to do more things, right? And we're relying heavily on technology, which goes back to that software line item that continues to increase as not only the cost goes up dramatically, but we add technology. We're in the process, as you know, of switching over our CAD RMS system. We started that process in October. It takes about a year, sometimes longer, depending, to get that up and running. We're hoping that makes us more efficient once we get proficient with using the new software and the capabilities that it has with it. Artificial intelligence is something we're looking into. There's so much information now for officers to understand. We've got hundreds of policies that we work on. The laws are constantly changing. There's a lot of them. We've looked at products that you can have a conversation with, and these are closed products, not like the free ones you see available, because there's some serious concerns with using those in policing, right? Sometimes those software are known to make up things. We can't have that. And you also really don't know where it's drawing the information. So these are closed systems designed for law enforcement. You feed it in information, and it gives you back the information from what you fed in. It cites where the source is, and it would bring you right to the part if you wanted to verify, hey, did it interpret it properly? You can then look exactly at the source of the information. So we're looking heavily at products like that to make officers more efficient and less likely to make an error, which we have, it's a high liability business. If you make an error, there can be substantial costs associated with errors. Drones, right? We've had a drone program for a number of years. We're looking to expand that into a program called Drone as First Responder. We're in the process of finalizing that. The snow has kind of put a little delay on that because it's actually a unit mounted on the roof of the police station where we can remotely deploy the drone, and within minutes, it could be on scene, which has been proven to be very, very beneficial. A lot of times it would beat the officer to the scene, provide real-time feedback. Most of the time talking to witnesses, they've got a lot going on. They're not trained to report things, and they're usually in a critical situation. So the information we get back a lot of times is not that accurate. We have people who flee while we're en route, stuff like that. So we think this will be a very beneficial program to get up and running, but it increases our efficiency once again to the point where the officer safety factor alone, I think, is tremendous. Fire department has requested our drone in the past. I recently saw a story where a fire department and police department jointly had a DFR program. The drone getting over the scene right away, basically, allowed the fire department to call in the proper resources, and they saved a woman's life who was in the fire. So it's stuff like that. It's getting that information back immediately, having station supervisors being able to see that live from the scene. We think it's going to be a real valuable tool. So we're gonna try that program out and see how we make out. But based on other departments, we're not the first by far. We have high expectations. And then LPR, which is the cameras, the plate cameras, we have some of those around town. Those have been very beneficial as far as, I guess we didn't even realize how many stolen cars and plates there are out there. You'd be surprised. I mean, we get alerts multiple daily on these, and some of the same car, we just haven't caught up with them yet. But, yeah, it's amazing the amount of people driving around with stolen plates. And some of them are, like if you had your plate stolen, for instance, and then you just, for whatever reason, decide to keep driving around with it. People do that. Instead of getting new plates, it's not a good idea. It's not legal, because you need to have 2 plates on the car. But those are a good amount of them. But we've also recovered stolen vehicles, and we found vehicles with stolen plates attached, different things like that. Sometimes we get hit on wanted people. They've been very, it's a force multiplier, essentially. It does things that helps us work with less officers, but maintain the same level of service. And in solving crimes, it's a tremendous tool. Maybe somebody gets a partial description, partial plate of a vehicle, and we're able to go back and then find and identify that vehicle. So it's been a great tool for that as well. And then finally is just back on the staffing study. We talked about how much of the budget, 70% of the budget we dedicate to hiring officers. We want to make sure we have the right number of officers, aligning our staffing with our workload. They'll evaluate efficiency, performance, assist with budget planning, which is a big part of what we're talking about, and then just enhance accountability and community trust. Because like I said, going back to me being able to make a request for a certain number of officers and knowing that that's based on actual data specific to Dartmouth, I think is an important thing where it is a large expense. Organizational chart, overall, the organization, the design didn't change much from last year. We've pretty much maintained the same operational design. There is some differences in staffing. We've increased 5 officers from last year. Last year would have been the year after we lost to 10, so we went up 5. And the way that happened, the breakdown is this year we had 1 officer retire. We had 2 that we hired, and then there were 4 cadets in the last year that graduated the academy and became full-time police officers. So overall, we're up 5. We don't have any cadets, anybody in the academy right now, so we're gonna try to basically enhance our advertisement of the opening positions that we have is the point we're at now. Part-time officers, known as special police officers, work details, we're down 3. There's a lot of new training requirements that they need to basically follow through with each year to maintain that status. A lot of training, and they do that on their own time. They don't get paid to do it. So we did have a number of officers decide to basically resign. They just didn't want to keep up with that. What we're looking at doing now is adding a new position, basically, where these officers, former officers, could work details in a civilian role. A lot of departments are doing that. As nearby as Westport's had that, they've had a lot of success, because it's important that we fill these details. You've got contractors coming into town. They've got important work to get done. Sometimes it could be replacing gas lines, fixing, utility work, stuff like that. And we need to be able to fill these details. So it's unfortunately, we lost those 3 officers, but I understand why. And so we're trying to work around that. And if they could become civilian in direct traffic, they wouldn't need to meet all those same training requirements. And obviously, they're very skilled at directing traffic. They've been doing it for years and years.
Aren't the training requirements the same across Massachusetts?
For police officers? Yes, yes.
So all police officers are required to do this safety training every year, and do other departments typically pay them, or
Not
we
usually.
just don't?
Yeah, not.
No
because-
one does.
Yeah, what they do for us is they work details. And so the way, towns and cities view it is, that's the benefit they get, is to be able to work those details. And what we expect in return is they meet their minimum requirements, they do all their training, stuff like that. But even now with post, they still have to fall on the post, which is the police officer standards and training that was established a couple of years ago as part of police reform. There's a lot more training now than there used to be for police officers that we need to do. They need to go to the range twice a year, qualify with their firearms. It's really a lot of stuff that isn't necessary to work a detail, quite honestly, because we're not gonna utilize them for anything other than traffic details. So I understand why they've left, but it was nice to have them available, so I'm looking to establish a new program where we could get them or other officers back in those positions and remove the reason that they resigned from them. And then finally, staffing-wise, the other changes, the addition of two dispatchers. So we had a vacancy, we filled the vacancy, and then we also added the other position. So that would be the 2 additional dispatchers. Any questions on
I have
that?
a question, Chief, if I may. Refresh my memory. Is there still a resident requirement to be a police officer in this town? Do you have to live in Dartmouth?
So there's a residency preference. We give preference to people who live in Dartmouth, but based on civil service, they just need to live within 15 miles of the town.
Okay.
Yeah, yep. We found that most employees that we hire as police officers, if they don't live in town, they live very close by, and most of them also grew up in town. So we've had a lot of success with, you hear a lot when I talk about it, introduce them, that they graduate from Dartmouth High School, stuff like that, which I think is nice to have that connection, long-term connection with the community. So we've been able to maintain that very well, whether they live in town or they just grew up in town.
Okay.
But they don't have to, though, based on civil service, 15 miles. And I don't think you'd want to drive much more than that, because it's like border to border of the towns, so it's,
So I have a lot more.
yeah, right.
Just to follow up in regards to graduates from Dartmouth High School, I love to hear that personally. The criminal justice programs, where are your local criminal, is that Bridgewater State, or Where do you find your graduates from criminal justice programs going into policing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of them. Roger Williams has a very well-known program for criminal justice. So there's a bunch of them out there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Quick question. So we have a residential preference and a 15-mile requirement. The class and comp study that we're doing is gonna be with municipalities outside of the 15-mile radius, right? So is that gonna give us good data for where our pool of candidates come from?
Yeah, because that's just one piece. And there's also several departments that are non-civil service that have other requirements. So, I mean, generally, police likes to have the officers in the general vicinity, but if you leave civil service, there can be various requirements. That 15-mile radius is because we're in civil service, and that's just, a lot of departments are leaving. So you can't really compare us, particularly in police. Even in the comp and class, there's been a lot of work done because our police department is very unique, even to our comparable communities, because we are surrounded by two cities, right? We're a town, but we're surrounded by two cities, and a lot of our crime is associated with residents of those cities, not actually of the town of Dartmouth. So the candidate pool, that's one piece of it, and it's definitely, we'll look at part of that, but it kind of goes further beyond that.
So the class and comp study is gonna be, like, and, pardon me, I don't know what, like, the civil service, is that like our officers? Is that what we're talking, so like, we got 66 officers out of 87 total employees. Is that the civil service component?
Yeah, the officers are civil service, correct, yeah.
And so the class and comp study is gonna have enough specificity for that major component of our police department to give us good data of how we stand locally in our 15-mile radius?
To an extent, yeah, and that is, when they look at comparables, that's one thing that is considered, but there's many other things that are considered. The chief kind of touched upon the different opportunities within the department, the structure of the department, because you can't compare, you know, our department to Westport's department, or, you know, even New Bedford, right, the different, so those are all things there isn't one specific piece, I guess is the answer to your question, but we are confident that they'll consider all of those pieces where we'll get a good look at our comparables.
I mean, I think to your point, Nathan, is, you know, most likely, you know, the people we attract are gonna be within 15 miles, right? I think that's what you're basically saying is, you know, we need to be concerned about the departments around us, and I agree 100% with that, because that's where our candidate pool is gonna come from.
That's the competition.
That's the competition. However, just from my experience with these studies, back in 2019, the town did a study. And what they look at, and which I would agree with, is they focus heavily on a town's financials, right? Because it's your ability to pay, in essence. So whether you want to pay more or less or whatever it is, what is the town, it might be out of your ability to pay that. So although the comp study might come back, if we looked at a different town, Marion, Mattapoisett, wherever it might be, and they say, well, based on this, you should pay this, but they didn't consider the Dartmouth's financials. So the study I saw, I don't know if this will be similar, I haven't seen it yet, but it really, when they identified comparable towns, it was based heavily on the financials of the town. They were looking for towns that had similar financial situation to Dartmouth, because that really comes down to your ability to pay. So that adds any insight. But I agree, we need to look at our neighbors too, because that's probably the people we're gonna attract.
Just a quick question on the, like, recruitment of experienced officers. I know, like, at one point, a lot of people that I knew were trying to lateral from different places, but both chiefs had to sign off, so it was difficult, because a lot of chiefs said, I can't afford to lose you, I can't sign off on it. Like, everyone wanted to flee to Taunton at one point because they had a great contract.
Yep.
But then I know a lot of people that went outside of civil service, went to towns that were doing things like giving them credit for, say, vacation or sick time based upon total years of police service. Obviously, the seniority, you can't just jump over everyone when you come into a new place. But have we done anything like that with vacation time?
Yep, we're doing all that.
Okay.
And actually, there's a recent agreement that just allowed us to do the vacation time. Prior to that, we were able to give credit for the years of service.
Okay.
So we have, the steps that the officers get paid. We're able to bring them in at a higher step based on how many years they've served.
Sure.
And that was a good addition, though, was the vacation, because that was like one of the next big things with laterals, is they may have, we've had a couple of laterals, and sometimes they have 5 years on, 3 years, and
Yep.
they've built up some of that. And yeah, we can't give them seniority, because that wouldn't be fair to the
Yep.
officers we have.
Of course.
So they kind of get stuck on whatever shift they get stuck on, but we're doing as much as we possibly can to make them whole when they come over, kind of make it appealing to them. To get a seasoned officer is a huge benefit to us, and, we invest a lot in the officers and so do other departments.
Yep.
So to not have to go to the academy, hope they get out of the academy, all the field training that goes into it.
Just such a small pool. You can't.
It is.
Can do what you can do, but you can't make them, so,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay. All right, so the metrics that we look at each year. Calls for service, looking over a 10-year period, it's been fairly consistent. So calls for service, there's two main components to it. There's the external calls, when the public calls us for help, and then I'll call them internal calls, is when we initiate, the officers initiate a call. It could be a car stop, could be a property check, there's a million different call types that they would self-initiate. So the external calls, we don't have any control over, but the internal calls, we have a lot of control over. And that can be good or bad, and I just say that. I don't put a lot of weight on calls for service when I compare departments, because a department could easily mandate what we call property checks, okay? So overnight, the midnight shift, they drive around, and what are they doing a lot of times? They're checking on property, right? But they don't necessarily call it in and generate a call unless we ask them to, because there's certain properties we want to make sure they're checking on for different reasons and be able to verify that they did check on it. But for the most part, they're checking on hundreds of properties per night. And if we had them generate calls for each of those, which we could do if we asked them to, our call volume could go up dramatically. And that's what departments have control over, is those internally generated calls. So I put it up here, it's good to look at, it's good for us to have a feel of what the calls are. But at the same time, I don't put a lot of emphasis on it. We rely heavily on the FBI crime data, because that is an actual situation where an officer not only went to a call, but they generated a police report, and it had charges on it. So it was investigated, it was a verified complaint, and they actually they wrote down some type of charges. And that data is submitted to the FBI by each agency, and we have that data available too, but I stress that a lot more than I do calls for service, but it's interesting to look at, so I put it up here. These are some, over a 5-year period, reports in different activities that we do, just to take a look at any trends, things that kind of stick out. A decrease in citations is one thing I had noted, and an increase in offense reports. So those two potentially could go hand in hand. The more time officers are spent, writing reports. And when you're writing a report, that started out with a call for service, you had to do an investigation, and then you write a report. So it can be time-consuming when you see, offense reports going up like that, and that basically reduces the amount of free time they would have to do traffic, violations. And we're also down officers. So, for instance, our traffic division, we're short an officer in that division. Patrol is our main focus, so we can't always make some of these specialized appointments until we get more staffing to do that. And traffic focuses heavily on, traffic enforcement. So there's a few reasons why we see the trends that we see, but most things are relatively consistent year over year.
Chief, a quick question. How many cars, patrol cars you have on the night shifts? And I say like from, 12 to, say, 8 in the morning?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things with that. It's hard to say because every day is different, to be honest with you. We do have minimums. I can talk about the minimums. That's the least amount of cars we would have before we would call in for overtime or force an officer to work overtime. And depending on the day of the week, Monday through Thursday, it's 4, and then it goes to 5 over the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, But there's a lot of times there's more, there's also at least one supervisor working as well as the officers on the street. Many times there's more than that if everyone comes into work, but we have to allot for days off and time off and stuff like that. This is a 5-year comparison of crimes against persons. These are all categories set up by the FBI. They're official categories. Certain crimes fit into these. These would be the more serious crimes, assault and battery, stuff like that. Pretty big increase this year.
That's a little depressing.
Well, when we look into it, this is kind of why we look into this stuff, because when things stick out, we want to say, all right, what is happening? What can we do about it, right? A big increase that we saw was from South Coast Behavioral. We get called there frequently. It could be two patients fighting, a patient and, you know, a medical provider.
Yeah.
Our call volume there for crimes against a person has doubled in the last year.
Yeah.
And it was high before, and it's doubled. Additionally, assaults at the motels in town have also increased.
Okay.
So that's really the majority of the increase that we've seen is based on those two things.
Mr. Kerr, Chief, is there any provision to charge or fine or mandate, hey, hire your own security to handle these little skirmishes? We'll come when it's really big. Can you dictate that? Does the town have the right to say, we'll continually go to the same place for these kind of skirmishes, get your own security?
Right. I believe they have security there. They don't necessarily call us to deal with the problem. They have called us. They've had some serious incidents there, and they have called us to deal with that. But a lot of times, we're responding after the fact because the person, they want the other person charged. So we're just basically going there, taking a report and filing charges. I don't think we have any ability necessarily to, you know, deal with that, to charge people.
That's a
you
big
know.
increase, and
Yeah.
when you're there, you're not.
Right.
There could be another emergency that's even more important, that one that you're late or you couldn't get to. It's,
Yeah,
Doesn't
well-
that information come up to the select board when they're looking at their license? I've heard some conversation around, you know, should we be doing something about the license for this place?
The problem is the select board actually doesn't oversee the, most of the inns that we have challenges with. Those are all issued through the Board of Health, that you don't really have a lot of discretion. So that we did do that as part of the renewal process this year, and the, 3 that are within the select board's jurisdiction were the 3 least problematic.
So we do submit, upon request, information. They did request information on the motels in particular, so we submit that when we're asked. And I think they use that to the best of their ability.
I think in relation to behavioral health, I think it's really important that we have a good partnership with our, you know, with our healthcare workers, and that they feel like they're supported, and that, you know, when they need backup, that they can get it, just like with the schools. I mean, I know that we don't pay our, you know, community health workers, but it's important that they feel like they have support.
Yeah, and they've had a couple of serious issues over there too, so
Yeah.
it can be dangerous,
Yep.
for sure. But at the same time, and we see it daily, there are a lot of people who need that kind of assistance. I mean, we need these places, and probably more of them, quite honestly, because,
Yeah.
you know, it's something that we've seen a dramatic increase in
Absolutely.
over the years.
Yep.
Next category is crimes against property. This is something that in town, we've always had significant numbers based on the amount of businesses, shoplifting being one of the biggest issues that we deal with. This year, we had an increase of about 88 shopliftings, so that boosted that number up a little bit. It's actually the highest it's been since 2016, looking back at our data. In addition to the shopliftings, it's not just that, scams. Email, texting, online, we're getting, and you know, a lot of the scams aren't even reported because people are embarrassed. So
Yeah.
I'm sure the actual number of scams is much higher than we even know about. There's still unemployment scams going on. I mean, it's just getting worse and worse, and I think with this artificial intelligence, they're getting better and better at this stuff
Yeah.
too. And they target, you know, elderly folks. It's really sad sometimes when you see what happens. We're hopefully gonna propose a bylaw this year at town meeting to ban if you've gone into some convenience stores, they have the crypto machines.
Yeah.
Those are used almost exclusively for fraud. I've talked to the FBI about it. The fees they charge, if you actually wanted to legitimately buy cryptocurrency, there's a lot better ways of doing it. I don't think anybody legitimately uses those machines.
No.
and the companies are making money, so they don't necessarily care what you use them for, as long as you're using them. So hopefully we can maybe ban those in town, and it's just one less way that people can be scammed like that. But we've had luck intercepting some of these couriers. They'll actually send them to your house to pick up money, boxes of money, whatnot. When people do call us, if they call us early enough, we work with them, and we've intercepted a number of them. And they're as far away as New York City. They come all the way here to pick up this money that they've scammed. So it's a very complex, organized crime network that does this. And there's different people with different jobs and all that stuff. So that's also contributed to some of the increase we've seen. These are crimes against society, general crimes. Some of these increases are how proactive we're being, because a lot of this depends on what we're detecting out there. A lot of it's drugs and narcotics. We had 63 reports last year. 27 of them led to an arrest. Our community impact unit has been very active in detecting and going after people dealing drugs. In addition to that, a lot of our calls for service, when the officer's on scene for something else, they discover narcotics, and it leads to an increase in some of these charges. So not a huge increase from last year, but a little bit, and the numbers are maintaining. But if you go back to 2 years ago, you'll see a pretty big increase. And I think we've maintained our activity and enforcement on that. No new information here. It's just all three categories put together on one slide.
You know, when I see you present this, it makes me think that I support you doing that study even more, because, you know, you see the increases in these categories, and that's got to change. You know, how much we obviously, the more manpower we have, the better we are at controlling this and
Yeah.
meeting the needs of the community.
Yep, and the CIU, that's a specialized unit.
Yeah.
I would like to put an additional officer in there. I don't have the staffing right now. I can't pull any more out of patrol. So, you know, they're
Yeah.
running a little shorthanded, and they could be more effective if they had that
Right.
extra person, so.
Yeah.
Kind of alluded to it. I think Cody might have stolen some of my thunder earlier, but, you know, based on our location, right, in between
Yeah.
the cities, I heard it talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You know, you can kind of see that.
Yeah.
New Bedford, we have more arrests of New Bedford residents than we do Dartmouth. We're number
Absolutely.
2, you know, as far as that. And then Fall River and other jurisdictions comes in third. When you add up just those three, it's 90% of our arrests, you know? With 45% coming from just Fall River and New Bedford alone. You know, we're right in the middle there, so it's kind of nice to see it laid out like that. I think it's useful, and it certainly goes along with what we've been saying as far as where crime is coming from and where we're dealing with it. And, you know, the way we're set up, there's a lot of restaurants, commercial areas, it draws people from other towns into Dartmouth. And sometimes some of the people commit crimes.
Is it? Thank you. Is it specifically related to one type of crime? So for example, I came from the north, we had restaurants, and so our increase for DUI arrests and those kinds of things from Salisbury, we're big. Is it one type, or is it just multiple mental health increases, as we were kind of just alluding to?
Yeah. I would say a couple of the biggest ones that would come to mind would be shoplifting. Okay, people come here to shop and also shoplift. And then we're back on the motels again. In the motels, we deal with a lot of domestics, assault and batteries, narcotics, stuff like that. And a lot of those people, they're at a motel here because they don't live here, so they're from out of town. The motels are also used to, especially when it gets cold, mostly when it gets cold, to house homeless. So the cities, when they run out of housing, they would basically, they bus in the homeless to stay at the hotels. They have them stay there overnight. And sometimes while they're staying there, they commit crimes and cause disturbances that we respond to.
Thank you.
Although homeless is a very small percentage on your chart.
It might be unknown, though.
Yeah, well, that only gets classified as homeless if they can't give us an address, like they don't have
Oh,
it. But
okay.
if they can give us an address, then we don't call them homeless, I guess. So
Okay.
it might not accurately represent homeless.
see.
Yeah. So we do a couple comparisons. The first one is Bristol County. This is an interesting one, just because this is gonna be the towns and cities closest to us. The ones in red have not fully reported yet this year. The deadline's March, so you can look at that data, take it for what it's worth, but it's not complete. It's probably pretty close. I would, normally you report monthly, so I would think they're only maybe a month or two behind on that. So those numbers are gonna increase for the agent, the departments in red. We kind of fit squarely in the middle of New Bedford and Fall River, interestingly enough, which is where we're geographically located. And it's been pretty consistent. Now, it looks bad, but at the same time, I just want to emphasize that, our crime type is different than the cities, okay? So they're going to be dealing with more of the violent type crime, but we're dealing with more property crime. So just to shed some light on what looks really bad, it's more property crime, less violent crime, which I think is much different than the cities. But it's still, it's still a high crime rate. And it's adjusted per capita, so it levels it based on the population differences in the cities and towns.
How do we possibly control that, though? I know it's a rhetorical question, I mean, what do you even start to do?
Well, it's very difficult to control, and, I just want to emphasize, too, this is reported crime. And we've seen times when it looks like shoplifting is decreasing, but really what was happening was some of the stores weren't having loss prevention. And so the reporting of shoplifting went down. And I think we have a pretty good reporting rate in town, which is a good thing. People feel comfortable calling us. And then when we get the report, we do the right thing with it. We categorize it properly, and we report it properly. So there's two steps to reporting crime. And I think some of the reflection on us is the fact that, residents and businesses feel comfortable and confident calling us. So they report it to us. So our reporting rate's high, and our officers do a good job, and our crime analysts, in categorizing it properly so it gets counted. Now, it gets counted against us, in essence, as a higher crime rate, but I think it's more accurate than potentially some other jurisdictions could be.
I'm surprised Taunton is that much lower than us, to be honest.
I'm very
Stuck out for
surprised,
me,
too.
I'm looking at that going, wow, really?
Yeah.
And that's why I emphasize the reporting component, and there's two parts to it, and, I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think that's
Well,
accurate.
And Attleboro is a city as well.
Yeah, Attleboro is
And,
another one that is
smaller than
surprising.
Taunton, but it's still a city.
Out in between Fall River and New Bedford?
All right,
Yep.
fair. Good argument.
So in addition to looking at Bristol County, we look at comparable towns, and this was based on that 2019 study that I talked about, where GovHR was a company hired. They identified those towns as being comparable to Dartmouth. About half of them have not finalized their reporting.
Yep.
But you can kind of look at that, and we still stand out a bit. So, our offices do stay busy. It's not only geographically large, we've got a decent population, and we've got, obviously, the, UMass Dartmouth being in town, a lot of retail, a lot of restaurants, prison that's in town, motels.
Mental
A
health.
lot of things that keep us busy. Summer population increases, stuff like that.
People complaining on the beach.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, just thought I'd throw that one in there for you.
so, and then we broke this down further by the type of crimes. So this is the same towns, comparable towns, same crime rates, but now you can get a little bit of, little view into the, the crimes against person, property, and society that we talked about, based on the different colors, just to see what kind of crime. And you can see with Dartmouth, the blue is the property crimes we talked about, and you can see how that's the majority of the crime that we deal with
Yep.
is in blue. So,
Yeah. That is a lot. Neat.
that was all I had.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
I just have a question, not budget related, but the Post Commission, what your relationship is with them. Do you meet with them, or do you just submit data to them?
We don't really meet with them. I mean, they have public meetings
Yeah.
that I try to watch when I can, just to see what's going on with Post. We have a lot of requirements to submit certain things to them.
Okay.
And they monitor offices as well and notify us if they see any anomalies or if they have any requests for additional information. So they're more of an oversight type of a body that we don't necessarily meet directly with.
Okay.
Anybody else have questions for the chief?
No.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
This
you
is
so
great.
much.
Very much.
Very nice job.
Thank you very much.
Not that crime stats are great, but it's interesting
yeah.
information.
No, it's-
Yep.
That was really well presented. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
When they're updated, the other towns are updated in March, can we see the statistics?
Yeah,
Be
we could
telling,
probably look
if
at,
they fluctuate.
yeah.
I want to thank you also for always, being at the middle school in the morning and keeping that traffic at it makes a huge difference. When you're not there, it's not that I'm complaining when you're not, but when you're not,
And they're actually
People aren't as
they're at
polite.
all the schools, you know?
yeah.
They kind of move around throughout in the morning and
Yeah.
the afternoon, and I think it's worked out well. And, you know,
Unbelievably
initially they
good.
were getting a lot more violators, but now that we've been there, people know we're
No.
there. And the vast majority know
Slow
we're
down.
there, and they slow down, which is
Yeah.
really what we're looking to
Most
do.
of them do.
So,
Yeah.
just to make that
And they'll let you
safer.
go too, which normally they don't. Normally they'll run you right over, but they're like, oh, there's police there. We're going to just let this one go.
And, on Slocum Road, tremendous amount of traffic. I mean,
Yeah,
we've done
so
traffic
much
studies out
traffic.
there. It's like incredible how much
Yeah.
traffic is on Slocum Road.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, so your presence there makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
Good to hear. I'll pass that on to the officers, because, just to
it's
let them know they are
appreciated.
making a difference and people notice and appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. Very big difference.
And your canine officer too, thank,
Oh, yeah.
the canine, that's an officer at home, so really thank he or she, for that service too.
Yeah, no, she's great, and that takes a lot of commitment, because you have the dog to do for you, really, so it's a big commitment when you're working and when you're not working.
Yeah. The partner I would want.
Absolutely.
I'd want the
So,
canine partner.
next on the agenda, we, as you know, I had the one-on-ones with the department heads, and was an open invitation for the finance committee. I know Deidre was there for every single one of them. So she was, it was a whole week, it was pretty much the whole week. I know John had showed up for a couple, Bill had showed up for a couple. So it's a good opportunity to hear what the departments need.
Good night, thank you.
More of a, more of a personal level for their departments. I know we look at the budget in whole, but whether they have staffing needs, whether they have additional, expenses. We talked about utilities and the rise of utilities throughout almost every single one of these budgets. So I think it went well. This year was the same format as we had last year, and I appreciate the departments getting that information to me a lot sooner. I mean, it was really done by the end of December, which is remarkable because, it's a lot of information, as you've seen with just the chief's presentation for them to get that done. So I don't know if there's any specific questions on what was maybe talked about, but it was generally the same format for each one of these departments. They came in, presented both on the expense and the personnel side for the salaries. Again, if they had contractual increases, that was built into their budget, but there was nothing else built into their budget. But the majority of those budgets that we presented were level funded. There were no substantial increases to that. You'll see that when we present the entire budget. There was some increases to software, as the chief had just mentioned in his presentation, and it's kind of hard to get away from that. We're becoming more and more bound by these software vendors that we see 4%, 5%, 6%, 7% increases every single year. So generally speaking, that was the overall, conversation with the departments. I don't know if Deidre wants to add a little bit more.
Thank you very much. It was just very impressive. It was I appreciate very, very much the time that I was allowed to kind of take informally and ask questions. The areas of expenses were level funded. The department heads knew exactly what they wanted to do, and Gary and Cody were discussing and working with the level funding of expenses. We talked about one-ons and one-offs, particularly in the town clerk's office, for example. The one-ons or off are dependent on elections. Local elections, we have more postage, we have more label. State and local elections, we might have state or local. We mailed the charter one year, so the postage that year was up. So one-ons and one-offs are evaluated in the ad expense area. So the department heads really came prepared to talk about what their expense areas needed. We talked about personnel, we talked about full-time equivalents, FTEs, and part-time FTEs, and so I started with full-time equivalent languages and healthcare benefits and things like that. So it was very helpful to me to hear and meet our department heads. They're a professional level group of committed staff. They're struggling, as the chief had indicated as well, with hiring professional level licensed staff. You'll hear from DPW with respect to CDL and big equipment licensing to operate. And we talked a little bit about how to train the trainer models kind of within some of those areas. So the opportunity that I received was almost a gift, and allowing me to kind of represent that and be part of that. Those are the kinds of things that I was able to pick up. through
Good. Sounds
those
like it was
department
very
meetings.
educational, especially as you're new to the group.
No question about it, and it was very, very much appreciated, so thank you for that.
John, did you have comments? Because I know you went to a couple of them.
No, been to them before, they're always.
Nothing to share?
Informative, to me. No, nothing stuck out,
Okay.
as wow, you know.
I know John was a part of the DPW conversation, and the question there was, we're level funding utilities
Right.
in a lot of these departments.
Understood.
And we know that those line items are gonna go over. I mean, we look at our own personal gas bills and electric bills and where
Can't
they've
predict.
gone. So we're trying to mitigate
Right.
those costs as much as we can, even though we may say level funded. Essentially, it's, if they're overspending on those accounts, it's coming from other parts of their budget on the expense.
You know, I liked, Janine, when I was there, they more or less adhering to the form, and when they presented
Yes.
something, the form that Brian created.
Brian will be proud.
Yes.
Yes, I'm thinking
No, but
that.
seriously, though, I was very impressed in how well they were organized as,
Good.
just as, really back what Dieter said and John, they did a very nice job, I thought.
And they called it the Brian form. I was like,
That
what
is what we
form?
call it.
They called it the Brian
They did,
form?
because I'm new and I'm like, what
I called the Brian
form?
form, so I think
And
now
he called
everybody-
the Brian form. I'm like, who's Brian?
Hey, somebody's still a little edgy. We still call it the Brian form.
Those will be forwarded to you once we listen to the first 3 budgets.
Right. I
And we get
understand.
through the bigger budgets, but I'll forward those to the group as I did last year, sometime early March.
Right. Was there any request for staffing?
We have a couple, we do
yeah.
have a couple shifts and changes.
Okay.
California agent.
Nothing major, I would say. It's not really.
Now, one position in DPW, part-time position in conservation,
Right.
and one facilities position.
All right, makes sense. All right,
That's all I have on that.
okay, good.
Finance
Finance-
Committee handbook.
Are you done, Gary? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Didn't
Finance
mean to
Committee
cut you off. The Finance Committee handbook, I apologize, I sent out the latest version this morning at, I don't know, 10 o'clock. Because I didn't realize that Gary had sent out, and it's not Gary's fault, had sent out a version before it had been updated. So rather than dive into it now, I would prefer that you had the chance to review it, because it's, in my opinion, close to completion.
I agree.
I had polished off the rest of it at the end, the Janine version, but I don't want it to be the Janine version.
I don't know if Brian
Handbook
has his
by
own
Janine.
form. I feel like Janine can have her own handbook.
So we're not,
Possibly, depends how people feel.
I'm going to review this.
No, I'm not going to review it, because I want people to get a chance to read through it and come back with comments as they see fit. So we can put it maybe on the next agenda if there's a spot for it. That way, everybody's had a chance to read, review, and decide if there's parts that need to be fixed. I had sent a copy off to the town moderator way back in November when this version was done. I have heard nothing in return, so I'm assuming it's a go so far, though we will, when we finish it, I'll send another copy for review and make sure that she's had a chance to review it.
Can you check your email, because I did not receive it.
I did.
Yeah, it came.
I think it's in about this afternoon,
Yeah, this morning.
This
oh,
morning.
this morning.
Yeah, 10-ish.
I got nothing from you.
Uh-oh.
I don't know, do you have me blocked?
It didn't go to
John, you're
junk?
on it.
Yeah, you're
I was
on.
gonna say, I have a list. I don't just arbitrarily
maybe
type in emails. I actually have a FinCom list.
I'll send it to you, John, right now.
Yeah.
I'll send it to
there you
John.
go.
I don't want John to be left out. Let me look, I can look on my phone and see it, actually.
You sent it, right, Gary?
9:58 this
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought so. It was really,
Yeah, it's right here. I can see it too.
You're on the list, that's all I can say.
Yeah, I just sent it to you.
But everybody else get it?
Yep,
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I did.
Anyway, so for next week, if we have a
Yeah.
chance on the agenda, we'll take a deeper dive into it after you've had a chance to read it.
In this building.
Wi-Fi's terrible.
I'm sure you weren't here to email all day.
If it's
You sent that, nothing's come through.
So, next on the agenda, we have, we had asked Cody to give a town administrator's update, but, we went to the MMA conference, I thought that
Yes.
would be a good,
Oh, yeah.
Want to hear about that?
Yeah, we can start there. I have a few other things to report on. MMA conference was, overall good. There's a lot of, it's heavily financial based, so, which is excellent. Gary and I attended a couple of sessions by the Department of Revenue. There was some decent information in there. One of the concerning trends that we're seeing, or this, I should say the state is seeing, while they're saying revenue growth is decent, it's not. At this point, expenses are outpacing their revenue growth. So they're hopeful that in the next couple of months, that turns around. And if not, they didn't say this, but, in our conversations, if not, we anticipate probably some 9C cuts, hopefully not that would hit the local level. You saw some last year from the governor. Again, didn't hit the local level. Hopeful that's the case again this year. But it's definitely concerning as we go into fiscal +27. The governor did speak. She said that this is before the governor's budget came out, 4.4% increase in local aid was generally what was being expected in her budget. We got Dartmouth's numbers later that day after she had left the meeting, and Dartmouth's 1.7% in her budget. It just, it's nothing. So hopefully the legislature's budget considers Dartmouth a little bit more, and we're able to see more than a 1.7% increase. But, that is what we're kind of working off of, which is highly concerning, 1.7%.
Cody, is that the rule of thumb, you think, for most suburbs, that it was a lot less than the projected?
It is, yeah,
4%?
it's definitely, we're not unique to that 1.7%. The cities, and obviously there's formulas, ability to pay, things like that. We're a minimum aid community, so that plays a role too. But even like New Bedford, Gary and I were talking, percentage-wise, it's maybe a little bit higher than Dartmouth, right? Maybe they're getting a $20 million increase, but when you have a $600 million budget, it's proportionate. So across the board, I guess what we can say is don't expect the state to come around in fiscal '27 to help the municipalities. It's just not, it's not gonna happen.
there's still different versions of the budget that come out.
Yeah.
So this is, usually the governor's budget is the most, they give the most out on the governor's budget, but this is like the least amount that we've seen in quite some time. Usually when it goes to Senate Ways and Means, they'll do cuts.
down, yeah.
But I don't think it's gonna go up from here. I mean, I think that's.
Yeah,
kinda
which
what
is
we're saying.
a scary thing, right? Usually, the governor tends to be, more liberal with the communities and providing more revenue. And for us to start at 1.7, we'll certainly be advocating to our legislatures that, we need more. But I wouldn't expect, even if it goes up, it's certainly not gonna be a lot more than 1.7%.
You're doing a lot of work to cover the lack of funds from the federal government, right? They're trying to do
There's some
that.
work in that. As part of her budget proposal, there's another significant investment in the MBTA. They are making some strides with Chapter 90, with the Fair Share Amendment, which is the millionaire's tax. So, there is some benefit there, but again, generally, it's small, and particularly for Dartmouth. So it'll be interesting. This is the last year of the Student Opportunity Act. We're hopeful that the legislature comes in and at least provides for a little bit more, because 1.7% doesn't cut it.
Yeah, and on the other side of that, the spend rate is at 4.4%, but the revenues are coming in at 2.9%. from the DOR, because the second half of the meeting in the afternoon was from the DOR. So, you know, that's a little scary, because most of the revenues, okay, will come in the first quarter of this calendar year. But the problem is, if they don't start realizing additional revenues, then they could have a huge budget gap between now and the end of June, which could be up to $1 billion. So, again, like Cody said, do they come in now in April and May and say, oh, but by the way, we're slashing state aid?
Right.
Which can be done.
Hopefully
So,
not. You
Right,
know,
that's
it's-
what
that's
we don't
extreme.
want to happen, but we have to be conservative in the fact that we have to expect that in case it does happen. So, you know, we can't be jacking up the revenues for state aid when we.
Was
kind of-
there any more conversation around the report from the AFTC in terms of
Yeah,
the
the-
unrestricted government funds? Is there any legislation that you know, nothing?
No, I mean, the MMA, you know, and the Finance Committee Association, they put out the perfect storm kind of report, and then they followed up with a subsequent report, kind of with a solution, what they thought would be. And clearly, that was not considered. Just did a quick search, inflation annualized is about 2.7%. So just take this going into next year, it's really a reduction of 1% in state aid, right? That's not even keeping up with inflation.
Yeah.
And if you look at the communities that, if you track it, like I track the communities that have gone out for overrides, that has nearly doubled in the last couple of years. Attempted overrides, not successful overrides, but attempted. So the pressure is being put back on the communities to raise revenues. And, you know,
How do you
it's,
do that,
it's because
right?
that there's no revenues coming down from the state, as far as local aid is concerned.
And that's where we're seeing, unfortunately, proposals before the legislature, particularly the governor, had filed the Municipal Empowerment Act. It's really no more funding to the municipalities. It's a vehicle for us to essentially tax our residents more. And I don't know if that's the answer. You know, one of the biggest revenue opportunities is to tax excise at a much higher rate.
Three times the rate.
Yeah, essentially 3 times the rate. So, you know, if you're spending, if your excise tax is, let's say, $500 now, you would have the option to increase that up to threefold. It's a local option, but those are kind of the tools that are being presented, not straight revenue and support from the state.
Yeah, and that's local receipts, so that's not gonna be.
That's not significant.
Yeah,
not,
it's-
yeah.
It seems like they're doing the best they can under the circumstances, right? I mean, elections have consequences, and we're seeing what happened. I was just hoping that they were gonna take some action on that report, but it didn't sound like they were.
Yeah, no, it was more informational, I think, than anything else, not, I mean, that was more for communities, as an eye-opener to spread out to finance committees and select board members to, you know, get them on board on what's actually happening at the state level. But the most significant piece of this is that the revenues are not coming in to match the spending at the state level.
Health
So-
insurance continues to be, you know, like 12 or something.
Yeah, so we did, as part of this, we have the Maya annual meeting. You know, we don't get our actual rate at that meeting, we get a range.
Yeah.
The essentially not great news is that the top end of that range is 14.4%. Obviously, that's high end, hopefully we don't fall at that, you know, at that range. We should have our rate sometime within the next couple of weeks, and then we'll.
Gary, did you say something about exploring in another direction, or?
Yeah, so we are doing that right now.
Try- okay.
Yeah, and we have the Health Insurance Steering Committee that, you know, we've started that. So we're exploring all the JPAs, the joint purchase agreements within the area, and also looking at Maya if we have to do plan design changes. So we're trying to get the like-in-kind plans that we have now, trying to mitigate the cost as much as we can, but like Cody said, we're gonna be waiting for what Maya comes in with, and we can go from there, make decisions from there, and meet with the group.
Yeah. So unfortunately, not great financial news, but it was one of the things that we're in a much better position actually than a lot of communities. Like, you know, Gary mentioned the amount of communities going for overrides. If you take a 3-year period, so look at going back to 25, 26, and looking into 27, it's about 50% of Massachusetts municipalities have either tried to go for an override or will be going for an operational override. And if not, they're looking at significant, you know, cuts. So while we may not be able to fund to the level that we would love to right here, we're fortunate where we're able to even afford, you know, a 3% increase for the schools. Middleborough is a community, they just came in, you know, that they gave their schools less than 2%. And this is what we're seeing around the Commonwealth. And so we're fortunate that we're in as good of a spot as we are. And that a lot of that's due to, you know, the financial policies that we have in place and conservative efforts that we've taken, so.
Deirdre?
So just to kind of follow up on the 9C cuts, I think that you're going to see on April 15th is Massachusetts tax day, as it is federal tax day. Your third quarter revenues are going to kind of kick in. And so the state's going to be able to better say, those 9C cuts fourth quarter could be X, as you kind of roll into that. And additionally, the Senate's going to take that, as they typically do that type of year, and then when the Senate takes a look at their budget as far as education aid, does that 1.7 include education aid?
It does.
Everything.
That's
It does.
all
So that's
local
all
aid.
education aid. So your education aid may receive per pupil aid, which is typically what you did when I started in 1862. Per pupil aid was $5. And so you can't change the formula, your Chapter 70 formula, but they started to say, all right, we'll give you per pupil aid, we'll give you per pupil aid, and I think it's up to maybe $75 per pupil. And that typically comes out of the Senate if you get any extra money at all in state aid for education at all. At this juncture, it's gonna be a per pupil, particularly because you're losing some of your federal money in Student Opportunity Act, so. Just to kind of give you how this might roll out regarding 9C cuts. The last time we talked about 9C cuts, it was either Romney or.
was through
It was
Romney.
Romney. And then we had
2008, I believe.
fall town meetings or something like that.
Yeah, that was
so-
mid-year 9C cuts.
Yeah, so that's how that thing is gonna roll. But quite frankly, a 9C cut on 1.7 million, as opposed to what some of your others are gonna get fourth quarter, could be really difficult. So as the guys or gentlemen have said, we're in a very, very good place in regards to that kind of opportunity.
Beyond that, like Gary mentioned, looking at other health insurance providers, we're hopeful that by mid to end of March, we'll have an idea of where we can go, if anywhere, if there's any opportunities to save. Budget Advisory Group has met a couple of times and actually, I think, had some really productive conversations. We've gotten a lot of feedback from the community that people have really enjoyed those conversations. So if you haven't had an opportunity to log on, they're recorded.
Spellbinding.
And they've been pretty well received. You know, one of the things we addressed most recently is all of our fixed costs, just to show how much of the budget we don't really have control over, and it's quite large, you know, on the general town side and the school side. We're working our budget transparency portal. Will be going live later this spring. Gary's been working behind the scenes with our financial team and our IT team. And they actually have all of our data uploaded, which is excellent. And so we should be able to have something online prior to the town meeting, which will be excellent, and we'll definitely want to promote that. Yeah.
I was saying to Cody earlier, if you haven't been to the website lately, it's been reorganized a little bit, and you can actually find things that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Unlike before, we would put it in that search box, and God knows what we get, so thank you for that work. I know you said it was
That's the
communications.
team, not me, but,
Yeah, but you have a good team working on that
do.
stuff, so.
yeah. Part of that is we have Jessica here. Jessica's our new communications manager.
Oh,
Yeah, so Jessica has been great. She's been here 2 weeks now. Yeah, going on 3, and has really jumped in and been a great part of the team. So Jessica has about 10 years' experience, comes from a municipality in Colorado that had over 100,000 tourists a week going through the municipality. So she has a lot of experience with kind of marketing, communication, and she has dug right in, meeting with all the departments, and we're excited to kind of implement several different communication methods. So I'd say stay tuned over the next couple of months for kind of that more transparent and more outreach. On Monday, the select board will be reviewing a couple things that are kind of in line with finance committee discussions. One of them is a charge for an economic development task force. So we're going to look to get that, those wheels at least turning. to focus more on economic development. And the second piece of it is a outline for a citizens academy. So one of the things that we want to work on is getting the public more aware. We're going to record those, probably start sometime in the spring. The idea is about 20 or so seats, and it's really a civics 101 lesson about municipal government. We're going to have about 10 different sessions. One of them, public safety night, finance night, a general government night, a DPW night, and we'll spend a couple hours where one of the things I really want to do is not just do it at town hall and actually try to do it at the different locations. We're still working logistically on that, but there was an outline that the board will discuss, and so definitely making some progress there.
Will it be on the same, will there be some consistency, will it be on the same night? Say every first Thursday or something like that?
We're gonna
so
try
that
to do
it's-
it on, I'm aiming for Wednesdays right now, because
Okay.
Wednesdays tend to be the night that there's not a ton of
Yeah.
meetings.
Yeah.
But we're still finalizing kind of
Okay.
when, but yeah, we want consistency for anyone, that way there people can schedule and plan, hey, I
Yeah.
need Wednesdays, evenings, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Cody, is there any work being done on a state of the town presentation before the town meeting, not the town meeting night, but yeah?
That's definitely one piece we are looking at. We want to do we've done a nice job over the past couple of years of doing the warrant reviews, but I would like to take it one step further and do like a town meeting prep night, and basically invite all town meeting members, particularly anyone can come, but invite all town meeting members and do more of an in-depth review of what's gonna be on the warrant, and I think that could be a good opportunity
That's a great
to
idea.
provide a kind of state of the town, where we are financially. And the goal is, certainly people can ask their questions at town meeting, that's the point. But if we can get ahead of a lot of those things and provide the clarity and the education ahead of time, it just allows town meeting to go smoother, and it allows for town meeting members, voters, to be more educated and have an educated
More
opportunity.
informed,
So,
absolutely.
I think too,
That's a great
there's just an opportunity there for being positive about
Yes.
the town, talking about what's been achieved, the fact that there's much more planning going on now than there ever had been before, and how helpful that is.
Yeah, we want to highlight all of the good things going on, because the reality is there's so much good going on. It's, social media and, the Facebook groups usually focus on the negative.
Of course, I mean.
No one's talking about the good stuff
No,
there.
and but we need to do a better job of that. We haven't done
Yeah.
a good enough job of doing that. The snowstorm is a good example. Did some mailboxes get
Yeah.
taken out? Of course.
I mean,
Were there a
that's
couple streets that
gonna
maybe we
happen.
could have been done a little bit better? Yes. However, we cleared over 200 miles of roads, and we were one of the first communities that almost the whole community was passable that morning.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have some of the most road
We did a
miles,
pretty
right? So
good job.
that's something we want to highlight. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not perfect.
Compared to New
but-
Bedford's plowing.
I was gonna say, I went to work in Fall River, and when I got off the highway, I was like, oh,
Yeah, exactly.
Hey.
Whoa, there's
How
snow
about
here.
Providence? That's even worse.
Yeah.
was the worst.
Providence?
Oh, yeah, I bet, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the cities.
So I appreciated Reed Road. Once I
Yeah.
got off the highway in Fall River, I was like, okay, these are main roads in Fall River. This was not so good driving. It's
Yeah.
all right, though.
In highlighting the dedication of the team that we have here, because most communities, you have to use contractors, you just don't
Yeah.
have enough internal staff. We didn't use a single contractor this storm.
That's impressive.
That's dedication of our staff. The staff don't necessarily have to come in and work 18-hour shifts to clear the roads and pre-treat. Particularly, it was an AFC championship game. I'm sure a lot of those people would have loved to have been at home and watching a football game. Prior to that, we had a holiday where they were coming in, and, not a single contractor.
So
that we
they
had to
clear the
use.
roads, then go to work afterwards?
Yeah, they still work a full day.
That's
in the
impressive.
storm, this past storm, there's some time where, depending on the crew, they'd go home and get a few hours of sleep.
Yeah.
But it was a long lasting storm, and then we had that burst of snow Monday night.
Yeah.
Where they had to go right back out. We thought everything was good, and it was cold, and then we got another 2-3 inches of snow,
Yeah.
and they were right back out. So just highlighting some of the
Underappreciated.
good that people don't realize, and we want to do a better
Yeah.
job. So Jessica's going to be working
Love that.
to make sure we highlight the good and the bad, right? We're not perfect. We want to be realistic.
I have noticed on the Dartmouth, Helping Dartmouth, that there are a few more people who are responding with rational kind
Yeah.
of next steps. This is what you could do. You could call this department.
Yes,
Yeah.
Which is nice to see instead
is
of just the
refreshing.
orange
It
trash
is.
bags.
Oh,
Right.
God, not the orange trash
Yeah,
bags.
yeah, go and post on Facebook.
Gives me a headache.
Meanwhile, we don't even know about it, right? If you give us the opportunity to make it right, the most recent one was the box out front. We heard complaints about that.
That's right. Forget about the
But,
box.
and honestly, as soon as we were informed, our facilities team was out there looking to see what we could do. They made some adjustments.
Yep, and it was fixed.
And it's fixed.
We
Yeah.
have some good staff.
It's amazing what a little phone call will do.
Yeah, yeah, we're responsive. I mean, you have every right to complain if you let us know and we don't do anything about it.
It's much
So give us
better
the
to rant on
opportunity to
Facebook.
make it
Come on,
right.
Cody.
Well, I mean, there's also you can put in a polite ask versus a
Yeah.
Facebook rant.
Well,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be asking on Facebook either. There's phone numbers to
It
call.
works.
Yeah, we try not to get involved with,
Yeah.
I mean,
you know,
there's
those
numbers they can
groups.
call.
Right.
We have our official social media avenues and we post that as, you know,
Yeah.
way to get information out.
Yeah.
But we don't do the back and forth on
No.
that. It's really us
Right.
to get information out there.
Right.
Yeah, so Gary's been great working on the budget. We'll have a couple more meetings. DPW will be the next kind of big one that we look at. CIPC met this morning to review preliminary requests for this town meeting, and.
The schools, yeah, we met with the
yeah,
schools this morning.
yeah. That's,
I just want to say that I really appreciate the fact that both of you are focusing on the town and not on yourselves, and you're wrapping it around facts, and you got started early. I'm kind of jealous of Janine because she's getting all this stuff, a week in advance, and I'd be on the phone the night before saying, where is it? So, it's good,
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah, so as Cody just mentioned, we'll meet with the DPW, we'll talk about water, sewer, and trash on the 19th, and then we're changing what you see here up on the screen. The schools will be in on 3-5.
Okay.
Oh, not till March. I think they're presenting their budget next
Because
week
they're
at the
not doing
school
their budget
committee meeting.
until, I believe, Monday.
It's going to be on the 12th, because that's the one I'm going to miss.
I thought so. I thought I saw
Twelfth
their
of March?
agenda for Monday night was the
and that's
budget.
the first time they're getting it presented to them.
Yeah. Right.
And then
It's
if they're gonna have
usually-
to give some direction to
Right,
the
I realize.
administration.
Yeah, they're not
then
gonna
they're
vote
gonna
on it,
actually
though.
review it again prior to this
That's what I thought.
being presented to the
Right,
finance
but it's a
committee.
look, if somebody wants to get a chance of what's
Yeah,
in
the
it, you can
subcommittee
first
did
look.
meet, the budget and finance subcommittee, the school committee did meet, but Monday will be the first time it's presented to the full school committee.
Yeah, and this has been confirmed with, 3-5 has been confirmed with Jim.
So on the 12th, it'll be the school committee?
The 12th, no, the 3-5, March 5th, we'll be
Right,
talking
no,
to the
What I'm
school.
asking is the finance committee agenda for next week.
Yes.
Next week,
Yeah,
we can do the handbook.
okay.
I mean, we could review some of the just smaller departments, not necessarily have that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we
Gary
must
and I
have
can
some
kinda go
departments
over
We've
it.
got, I've got all the departments, to be honest. We can almost like mimic what we did at the one-on-ones.
Yeah.
Go over the numbers
Yeah.
for the smaller departments. We can put that on the
Highlight kind
agenda.
of some of the
Probably
bigger
get rid of,
changes.
yeah,
Gary,
that's a good idea.
when are you planning on meeting, having the one-on-one with the school? They postponed the preliminary one that we're gonna have. Are you gonna schedule anything prior to them when they're coming in front of us?
We can. Yeah, we can. I think we were waiting, that was still kind of early for the schools when we met in January for the one-on-ones. So we can have a one with if when we send the invitation out to the finance committee and have Jim come in, maybe with the superintendent, and just talk about what they see for FY '27 before we present it to the full committee and then televise it also. So we can work with Jim on that.
Are any of the departments just dying to come before us
So
besides the three large
I
ones?
make the I send out the invitation, I mean, I talk to almost every single one of them individually. They're not, unless there's major changes in their department, and really there hasn't been, they don't really see a need to come in front of the finance
Oh,
committee. But if the
understood.
finance committee had a request for a certain department, we could have them come in. But I think the sheet, the one, keep calling it the Brian sheet, that's like really pared down a lot of the,
Right.
what the committee was looking for over the years, and reviews that, and if there's any questions on that, we can have them come in.
And there's no significant
Significant, no.
increases in any department.
Yeah, if there were,
in the
if there were,
general government
if there were
side.
like expenses that were through the roof,
Yeah.
we'd want to have them come in to, maybe go over that, but,
There's nothing.
Right.
Everyone has done a
Everything's
really
really
good
level
job
funded.
of keeping their requests to a minimal this year.
yeah.
So next week, will you have some of those Brian sheets
Yeah,
for
I
us to
can
look
send them
at?
to the group.
Good.
And we'll put the handbook on here also.
Yes, yes, I think everyone will have a chance to have read it by then.
Yeah.
And the Department of Public Works, are they coming February 19th? Is that what is
Yes.
that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay, because I know that there was, there was some concerns around water and, so just wanted me.
Just,
Curious.
Yes.
just quick thing, so, the enterprise funds, I know, I'm gonna sort of I'd sent some, questions on that. We're gonna be able to sort of review those types of questions? And would that be at the next, the 219 meeting?
For those applicable enterprise funds, yes.
Okay.
So water, sewer, and, solid waste, we can review those, yeah.
Great.
And then, if there's, we weren't planning on having in, waterways, or necessarily DCTV, but we can certainly, if there's particular things that we wanna look at, we can.
Yeah, those are
I
smaller.
don't know if they necessarily need to come in, but if we can get that same type of data in terms of what are the retained earnings and what are the.
Yeah, we actually when I kick off the CIPC meeting that we had this morning, I present that to them, because that's really the basis of where we start. Any available free cash from the general fund, and then any retained earnings from the other enterprise funds. As you know, we went through having to raise the rates for water and for the water.
Yeah.
We have to be cautious on what we spend there. We're trying to build those balances back up again.
Yeah.
And, the bills will be sent out very shortly with the increase, and we're hoping that we can capture as much revenue as we can from now till June. That's really when we have to, realize some additional revenue so that we don't have the issue that we had last time. But we can review
That was
that.
my concern, that's what I
Yeah,
was
we can
thinking
review
of.
what the balances are next week.
Yeah, I think I had like a series of like 5 questions or so, just sort of, just good information over time, just to help us gauge so that we don't
Yeah.
end up in a situation like we did with the water enterprise funds. If we can see that sort of trend longer in advance, maybe we could head it off before,
Right.
we get a 13% increase in our,
Right, kind
orange
of looking at a
trash bags.
5-year plan. on
Yeah, I have
that.
historical data from previous years on what those numbers look like.
yeah, that would be great. I have to take off though. I'll catch the rest of the
That's
meeting
all.
on,
Thank you.
on
Thank you.
YouTube. Thank you.
That's all I have.
We're
Janine?
close to being done, I
Okay,
think.
does anybody have liaison reports? Deirdre?
I know you're
I met
surprised.
with the Council on Aging.
Okay, sorry, Bill.
Excuse me, may I talk?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you.
Madam
I met with the council, well, it was a Council on Aging meeting I attended, Cody was there, and I had concerns about the kitchen expenditures, as long as they keep close reins on it, work with the project committee, and Amy said that more or less being taken care of by the town, so I just wanna make sure that they stays, more or less in step with what they estimated for their kitchen expenses.
They have concerns that they wouldn't be in step?
They didn't have concerns, I did.
Oh, okay.
That was my
Oh,
concern.
okay.
So we didn't want any surprises at the end of the day, that they said this and it's that, so. As long as
Understood.
we keep tight reins on it, or somebody does, then that's fine as we go along.
Good. Deirdre?
Just really quick, my liaison report is Rob Alme. I met with Rob Alme, who is the chair of the Board of Public Works.
Yes.
And he is quite brilliant, quite brilliant.
I'll have to tell him to watch this. So he hears that.
I just wanted to introduce myself. He's a neighbor, but we spent about an hour and a half just talking water rates, all sorts of wonderful things. So I appreciate his time tremendously. I've also been watching the DPW meetings, and so I've been keeping track of anything engineering study that probably will be shovel-ready at some particular point. So that's kind of what I've been focused on. I've been watching some of the Board of Health, but that gets somewhat confusing to me, but I'll still hang in there. But I was able to introduce myself to Tim Barber and to Chris Marchand, and I introduced myself as, I am your liaison and I've been watching you. So they appreciated knowing that they're being watched, but I also was able to say hello and introduce that concept to them as well. So that's the report.
Anyone, John?
CPC is getting a number of requests this year, and it's gonna be interesting and challenging. How much can we fund this year, and what will the recommendations be to town meeting? So stay tuned, we haven't discussed any, I think we got 5 or 6 applications that have come in, so.
Wow.
All of a sudden, wham, like, ooh.
Is that at the 2%, the full 2% CPC?
We are not.
What is it?
What percentage are we for CPC? 1.5?
CPA fund?
CPA fund, is that at 2% of the tax?
Yes.
Is that, it's fully at 2%?
Oh, it might be.
Thank
I
you,
think it's
sorry.
up to, you can vote up to.
Up to,
Yeah, right, it's a little.
I don't know if
option.
we do the two.
I don't think we do. I'll look. That's a good question. You stumped us, Deirdre.
sorry.
Yes. Did you have something?
I don't, like Deirdre here, I've been listening on the Board of Health, but there's really nothing finance-related that I need to bring back to the table.
1.5.
Uh,
Oh, 1.5.
And the school committee, I think, is,
I think it was
there's
equals
no,
to.
you know, we're waiting for the budget, so nothing else with that that I can think of to share with everybody, so. And Parks, I have not, I might have missed their meeting, or maybe I didn't have one.
I showed one at the last meeting, I think it was a week ago or
Was it that soon?
Next meeting is March 10th, though,
Yeah,
5
there you
PM.
go.
Thank you.
I'll be there if you want to be there, too.
I would like to be there, thank you. Putting it on the calendar, thank you very much.
I want to make one comment about the Budget Advisory Group, in that it's a good idea in the sense that you have three main groups coming together in one meeting. The fact that we have two Finance Committee members, two Select Board members, and two School Committee members, of course, Jim Kiley and these two gentlemen. But it's great to see an opportunity so early on for us to work together. As we all know, I mean, I've been on this, Terry, you've been here way longer, but this is the best way to bring everybody together now to have discussions. And, you know, the discussions have gone very well.
I agree, yep.
I agree.
That's my 2 cents on that. Anybody else have comments for liaisons?
Well, I'll just say long-term capital is working on a report. Actually, you know, long-term capital, Cody is working on a report, and it's gonna be at the
March 9th
Select
Select
Board meeting.
All right.
And then you will get a email from me. I know some of you already done the DPW facilities tour, but we're gonna be doing that a
I would
little
love
more
to
in
do
depth. I'll get you, a formal email will follow, but right now it is scheduled for March 3rd in the morning. We're gonna start around 8 AM.
We talked about that at the bag
Is that
group.
the same
Well,
date
what
that
we
I
were gonna-
had from?
We were gonna have we were gonna have a meeting on 2/10, but then we switched it to a tour, and we had talked
Correct.
about that.
Yeah.
Do you have a tentative time by any chance?
8 AM. is
8
ten-
AM?
Yeah.
And do you know how
tentatively.
long the tour is?
About 2 hours probably, right around there.
Stop it, Teacher.
You know, we have,
So like
a-
8 to 10?
Yeah, the
Because I'm
guy
gonna,
that did
I'm gonna
the
put it
last
on the
one is
calendar, and you
retired,
said
'cause
March
he was
3rd?
awesome.
yeah.
We're gonna make time for the
March
gift
3rd.
shop.
I'm gonna try to
We're gonna make
that
time
one.
for the gift shop.
Fabulous. Can we drive a truck? Oh.
That was Public Works, right?
Well, you're going to send out an email, so
Yeah, I'm gonna
all
send
of,
something
all of
out.
FinCom will be
All
invited if
FinCom,
they
yep,
want to
yep,
go.
exactly.
Yeah, but if I put it on now, I don't have to get on.
No, no, of course, I believe, I had
No, I'm
a
just
conversation
letting it-
yesterday with
letting
them, it's
everyone
already in
know.
here.
Formal invite to follow,
Okay.
to everybody.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
That would be amazing, yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And for those members that were on the school tour,
Yep.
that one,
Didn't do
that
that
was
one.
pretty,
It was really good.
that was really good, yeah.
Seems like it was so long ago, but that wasn't that long ago. That school tour was great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. I
That just
couldn't make
happened, I
one.
forgot about that. Yeah, no, that was excellent, two different schools. Are we ready now to
Do we need to vote in any minute?
Minutes.
the minutes? And there they are, up on the screen. Does somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes for November 13th, 2025?
I'll make the motion.
Bill Bowles made the motion, will someone second?
Second.
Okay, go, Deidre.
Okay, seconded. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
And I have to abstain.
Yeah.
And,
Patrick
Terry.
and Terry, okay. Abstain. All right, we're good. What else we got? Anything else? That's a no.
Can I make a motion to adjourn? That's what I like to do.
I'll second that.
Patrick,
I'd like to stay a little longer. I'm just kidding.
you're welcome to. All in favor?
We'll keep the lights on for you.
No, we won't, he says.
I believe